Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 19, now ready for departure.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the vacation kingdom of the world.
There's enough land here to hold all the ideas and plans we could possibly imagine. We call it Epcot. Will be our experimental prototype city of Tomorrowland.
Welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, taking you back to the vacation kingdom of the world, the way it was, and the way it is in your memories.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, the official podcast of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society. This is episode 60, where we'll be taking you back to the new Tomorrowland of 1994 into 1995. So lots to explore, lots to talk about. I'm your host, Todd McCartney, and sitting in with me, as always, this evening as we record, coming into Ohio, getting ready to go back to school in some fashion or not, maybe hybrid, remote, some level of learning, not many kids on the buses at once, is Mr. JT Cougar. How you doing tonight, JT?
I am great. My head's just spinning, but I'm excited to take it back to when I was in 7th grade in my trip to New Tomorrowland.
There we go. See, we do social distancing on this podcast by default, too, since we're all over the place. We're never going to share anything with each other.
See you guys every 2 years. So
yeah, exactly. we only share terms.
We planned the last event around COVID, so we're fine. See, we knew it was coming. We had Retro Magic.
Yeah. So coming in tonight from Tampa, Mr. Hal Bowers with the Atari t-shirt. Well done, sir. Looks great.
Aloha. Good evening.
How's it going tonight?
Good. It's nice here. It's hot.
Yeah, you're buckled down for the winter season, or the summer-winter season, as we call it, right?
Yeah, the swinter.
Swinter.
We like to call it swinter.
I like that.
Yeah. No, it's actually, the evenings are still a little cool. Daytimes are horrific, but,
Do you still see the dolphins in your backyard?
We had one yesterday.
And what do? Do you just let them go, or can you, get them to come over?
Hal has his own Living Seas deep experimental crane. Do you have the dolphin keyboard in your backyard?
Yeah, we have the keyboard. We bring out the keyboard and see if we can get him to type some stuff.
I'm just wondering, do people like you, do you do anything special to attract them? Like, I can do things to attract hummingbirds around here. And
usually I try to dress sexy.
So you can follow Hal and his dolphin at Go Away Dolphin. So
yeah. Or come closer, dolphin.
Yeah. So I think what the deal is, they just they follow the fish. So they come in. There's fish that come in through our canal and out.
But what's great is that you live. I've been there, and you live on a dead end of well, if you were boating, it's a dead end. So these fish are not. I mean, they just follow each other. Dead end, and then these dolphins just come in and
fish
have
in a barrel.
Yeah.
Yep, they got to come to the end and turn around. So yeah,
they turn around into the mouth of the dolphin.
You might want to put a sign up, like no outlet or dead end or something for the fish. Further on down. All right. Brian is laughing. I can see him. He wants to get involved in this fish story here. But Mr. Brian P. Miles from Philadelphia. How you doing tonight, Brian?
Galactic greetings.
Oh,
we're on theme tonight.
I like that.
I'm interstellar tonight.
We're gonna page Tom Morrow at some point too, I believe, during this show.
Yes, we will. Todd, I realize when we do this, we never get to ask you, how are things in New Hampshire?
That's true.
They have been hot, and we are in a moderate drought up here. So,
whoa!
That tropical storm that laid down all that water up the East Coast. We got 45 minutes of a gentle sprinkle, from wind, and that was it. But I went to the beach today. Actually, we went to State Park and did a little looking for sea glass and metal detecting, and found nothing but broken lobster trap parts.
So what you're saying is you can't take those cool New Hampshire breezes for granted.
We are the granite state.
Because it's the granite state.
Yeah. Well done.
All right, I'm done with the puns.
Good night, everybody. Brian will be here all week, though. All right, well, let's move on to corrections and comments. I think the overall comment is that last month we had a tremendous amount of feedback on our ephemera episode. Not only did that, we also did a movie night where we showed some ephemera, but the amount of things that everybody sent in. I have a couple hundred different photos and things that you sent to us that I've uploaded to our server that have to be tagged and everything. But oh my goodness, you don't realize how much ephemera is out there, and some really neat stuff that everybody has sent in. So thank you for sending it in. Thank you for some of these people just sat there and scanned what looked like their entire dresser drawer or something, and sent it in to us. So really appreciate your time and effort in doing that. It was great to see what you guys had, and a lot of people had stuff scanned in that we hadn't gotten to yet on our side. So that was really great to see.
A correction / comment from our good friend BioReconstruct, who we've been talking back and forth a little bit about the touchscreens. Hang on, I'm going to turn down my volume because I seem to be very loud right now. I must have went
everybody
the
up.
wrong way. There, that's probably a little bit better. So we were talking about the touchscreen, the quote-unquote touchscreens that actually use the little infrared beams. And how, that we were talking about how that technology is kind of defunct, but we discovered that it's still in use at the Haunted Mansion in some of the outdoor gags as you're waiting to go in. And then he realized that ImageWorks, there's a sort of a lead the orchestra thing, and it still uses that technology. And he happened to be on Amazon shopping for some monitors, and he discovered there's actually a thing that you could add on to a 43-inch monitor that you can buy at Amazon that has that functionality to it. So it is not completely dead.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And perhaps with COVID, a non-touch touchscreen could be an important thing to have again.
So just if you do touch it, we'll just add a little bit like a chicken wire, will zap you, right? So that you fry any germs.
Like the dog fences. The
exactly, yeah.
Fences for
Touch, almost touch, but don't. It's a new museum too. It's the Almost Touch Museum. So the Touchless Touch Museum. So
Touchless,
we also had a voicemail come in. I'm going to let Joe tell this story himself, and then we'll discuss it. So he left a voicemail on our 978-71 Retro phone number, and let's hear what Joe had to say about Disney dollars.
Hi, this is Joe from Orlando, Florida, and I just got finished listening to your ephemera episode, and I want to give you guys another story regarding the Disney dollars. After they were introduced, when you rented a stroller in the Disney parks and returned it at the end of the day, you were given like a little little voucher, and when you turned in the stroller, they gave you a Disney dollar as kind of like a receipt. Now, the main reason for this was so that people didn't leave their strollers all throughout their park. They'd be enticed to bring them back to the front of the park to return them so that they got $1 back. Now, I worked at stroller rental in 2000 in one of the parks, and I can tell you about, now you were given a choice to have a regular dollar back or a Disney dollar. And from working there, I can tell you about 80% of the people took the Disney dollar instead of the regular dollar. So this was a great way for Disney to keep more of people's regular money. And it was very effective. And I believe it was around from the time that the Disney dollar was introduced. I don't know if they still do it nowadays. Anyway, great job on the show, guys. I can't wait to hear the next episode. Bye.
Thank you, Joe, and you have jogged my memory on that. I do remember my sisters were young at the time, and we did get the Disney dollars back after renting the strollers. I believe you could ask for a regular dollar if you really wanted to, but
excuse me,
it was kind of it. But that's a great way to give a souvenir out and make an extra buck, right? Because most people are like, oh, came for a day and I got this Disney dollar. I'm going to put it away because it'll be a collector's item someday. So.
And it is, based on what people are attempting to charge for them on eBay.
Did you see the $50 one?
Oh,
50
yeah.
for one?
No. It's a $50 Disney dollar. They were very rare, but the gentleman or individual wants $500, I believe, for it, or something absolutely outrageous. So thanks for that, Joe. Appreciate that. There was another one that somebody mentioned. We were talking about turnstiles. Remember we were saying how the People Mover was the only turnstile left? And it was the Carousel Progress was the one that still has one.
Also has the physical movie theater turnstile, yeah.
And Joe Barlow wrote in, this was pretty funny. He says, I was very mischievous, 11-year-old in 1981. I would, from time to time, lock the turnstile after going through. There was a small knob just under the turnstile at thigh level I would turn to lock. I don't remember doing the entrance, but definitely the exit ones, and for sure many rides. The funniest one I remember doing was the turnstile at the Contemporary in the 4th floor to get on the monorail. So if anybody out there was stuck at locked turnstiles in the early 80s, I am sorry. So
Yeah, I was going to say, now, Joe, I have walked into turnstiles that haven't moved, and that is not pleasant for someone who is 6'2" tall.
It's not
so
only
thank
not
you very
pleasant,
much.
it's very embarrassing because like the people behind you start to bump into everybody.
Exactly.
It's like a 4-car pileup. Yeah,
So,
it's
there you go.
It's a tragic scene.
But we did track it down. So thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. So JT, I'm going to pass it over to you for listener mail.
So here we go with listener mail. Got a few of them. You just mentioned the Turnstile. Somebody suggested the one. It was a Carousel of Progress. That was from Carla. I was going to read her message
thank you.
here. Yeah, so thank you, Carla. She said, at least as of 2019, People Mover and Carousel of Progress. So we got that going on from Carla. This month I wanted to kind of go through and showcase some of these photos. Now they're all going to end up somewhere on our website. Organized, categorized in that, but I figured I'd take a few that were sent in and throw them on this podcast article. So Miranda wrote in and she sent us another glass piece, a Disney candy jar. It says Walt Disney World. It's got blue font.
So cool.
Big red oval around that. So we'll post that one. Very cool. Nice clean look on there. Almost, that's a shirt right there if I've ever seen one, but we've got some copyright infringement there, I'm sure. Next one we got was from, I have to laugh because his name is AJ Serio, and it says on there his name or handle is Applejack Cereal. So AJ Serio, Applejack, whatever you go by. He sent us a lot of ephemera, and the Fort Wilderness stuff caught my eye, and it's pretty good stuff. He goes through it. You've got the whole guide that they give you, which this stuff from this vintage in 1985, it looks like it's done on a typewriter, which it probably was and made copies of somehow. Has the pony rides, the trail rides, even the create your own seafood buffet, Brian, at Trails End Buffeteria.
I am there.
Unlimited seafood buffet from 5 to 8:30. Salad bar favorites, boiled Florida shrimp, linguine with clam sauce. I'm seeing if there's anything else. I don't even know. If I just find the weirdest thing, you'd probably be intrigued.
I'm going to throw a flag on the play because just so everybody knows the parameters here.
What?
If you offer me a seafood buffet or a seafood dinner or a shrimp cocktail, and you bring me the shrimp and it's still got the shell or the legs on it, no, I'm not working for my food. You don't bring me a cow that's still got fur on it, don't bring me shrimp that still has parts on it. I don't even want the tails on there anymore, but I'll deal with the tails, but not the rest of it.
So what is this carved London broil?
So that's a flank steak. Yep. And growing up, since we were poor, if we were most likely to get steak, my mom made London broil, and I loved London broil. I still love London broil. It is a tough cut, and I learned about 20 years ago to make a Bloody Mary flank steak from Guy Fieri. On like his first cooking show, and that's how I've made my London broil ever since. So
okay, they also had deep fried catfish fillets and selected seasonal seafoods. So
well, you get your Florida grouper. What else do you think we'd get there, Todd? Some seasonal
mahi.
Oh, mahi. Any crab legs or anything?
I don't see crab.
No, they put Red Lobster out of business with the crab legs. You can't,
That's right.
Almost bankrupted the joint.
What's it, Shrimp Fest? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, it's crab. It's all you can eat crab legs.
That's right.
They completely misjudged how many people could eat.
I tell you,
they almost went out of business.
There is nothing better than a good Captain's Catch plate. That's all I can say. A good seafood.
Is that the fried one or the?
I prefer the broiled. Broiled and grilled. Yeah.
Well,
but yeah, nice mixed seafood grill is.
This in 1985 would have cost you $11.95 for an adult.
Oh my goodness!
Here come the emails. Oh, the prices!
I know. And now, just to put that into context, you could have gone on a pony ride for $1. So you were really,
and you were making $27,000 a year. So
yeah. Dinner or 11 pony rides, I'm not sure.
Now, one last thing I'm going to touch on AJ's, and he did a nice, pretty good scan of this, is it was always on this weird paper that, you got my paper connoisseur in the crowd here, I don't know who you are, but it's kind of like bumpy, it's got like little weave into it. It's a
like
Yeah, like all the Fort Wilderness paper used to be like that. It seemed like when we'd get a literature,
like a faux parchment type of thing that they used to do.
And
yeah,
you can totally see it on these scans. So thank you for that, AJ. Hitting Joe Barlow again. Joe's always reaching out to us. He sent us a few images here, which I absolutely love this color scheme, the 1987 annual pass. It's got a turquoise and purple looking archway with some confetti flying off of the castle in Epcot. Very, very cool looking thing. And he even sent us a picture from Dick Tracy at the studios.
Yeah.
MGM Studios 1990. So we'll throw these on there. And got one more here. This one actually came in. Boy, I'm looking at my time. I saved this today, 8 hours ago. This is from Eric. Eric is a librarian. And
oh yeah, this was good.
He's in Indiana, and his signature says Disney Nerd, which is fun. He showed us his. We talked about our ephemera, and we pulled it out of boxes, envelopes, and stuff. Well, Eric, being a librarian, sent us his hermetically sealed case that he stores his ephemera in, along with clear little, almost like comic book looking holders with the cardboard backing. It's pretty amazing, and he catalogs it all on an app. So, Eric, you win on the categorization and preservation of.
Yeah, I categorize mine too. When I see stuff, I'm like, I think I have one of those somewhere. That's how I categorize it. In a drawer, in a box somewhere, I think I have one of those.
So he is using the comic book boards. He does give Brian condolences on his lost ticket that your mom threw away.
My mom threw away.
Speaking of collections, I'm not going to call out the individual. There was you guys saw that pretty funny post that was going around the other day where somebody was showing these large collections of things, and somebody wrote in and said, "What? People collect those? I have hundreds of them." I was like,
Yes.
"Well, then you must be collecting them if you have hundreds of them." I forget what it was, but it was
weren't they maps? I think
maps or guides or
they were maps
something.
or guides. Yeah,
it was pretty funny. So, well, yeah, absolutely, and you are one of them. So, if we didn't collect these things, we wouldn't have things to talk about. So,
last piece of mail I know a lot of people reached out to us. I just wanted to give one shout out to Joe Seiler Jr. You guys took a call for burn bombs, and Joe was one of the ones I pulled up. So thank you to Joe and everybody else that sent burn bombs copies in for tonight's episode.
Yeah, it was we have to update our burn bomb archive.
I know.
Yeah, it was the gap was the only gap was the years we were looking for.
Yeah, got them all but so.
So thanks, Joe. All right, so if you would like to reach out to us, podcast at retrowdw.com. Send us an email, your stories, your memories, anything like that. Twitter message, Facebook, Instagram. We try to get to all of it, and any of it has a chance to end up on the show.
All right, well, it's time for this month's audio rewind, and as always, Hal pulls something out from his audio archives, and this month was no different. I'm sure you guys got it. It was a pretty common one, I think, as long as
I sure did. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, hey, I know what that is.
I know where that is, right? Well, let's take a listen to last month's audio rewind. All right, Hal, why don't you tell them what it is?
Well, Todd, that was from the music outside of Muppet Vision 3D. So while you were standing in line looking at all the fences painted with the little googly eyes on them and stuff, you could enjoy that music. And some people got to enjoy it again because when Galaxy's Edge reopened just recently, they routed the line through the Muppet Vision queue for some reason. So
Did they really, like, inside there?
Outside.
Oh, the outside.
There's a...
Okay.
Right, so when Muppet Vision first opened, of course, it was immensely popular. So if you walked up to the front door, on the right-hand side, there's an extended queue that goes down the side of the building, kind of in between two buildings, and loops back. And there's some funny posters with gags on them, and the lights have, like, eyeballs stuck to them, and there's a pipe that's painted very much like the pipe inside of the Ed Sullivan Theater, where... Henson and I think Frank Oz and a couple people were like waiting to go on, and they were stuck in there for a few hours. So they drew like faces and stuff all over the pipes in this closet that was in the room that they were in. And now it's apparently part of the tour, I think, when you go to 30 Rock or something. So there was an homage to that back there. It's a neat little spot back there with some cool stuff. So
Yeah, cool.
if you get there and it's not an extended queue, just see if you can wander back and enjoy some of that.
All right, well, we do have a winner for this month, and congratulations to Natalie B., who got the right answer, one of the correct ones that wrote in. And Hal, you're going to pick something else out of your reel-to-reel, tape, cassette, 8-track, Sony mini disc. What else do you have? You got
DAT. He's got some DAT.
Got some
tapes.
DATs.
Wow.
I have a few Victrolas, some wax cylinders, and some kazoo reenactments
Oh, wow.
that we just do ourselves.
All right. Well, that could be from
fun to be
Muppet Vision
free.
right there, right?
Okay,
That's actually Hal. That is not a kazoo. The talent that just
we have all these hidden talents.
it's unbelievable.
among
It
us,
really
yeah.
is. Well, let's dig into the bag there on your audio rewind, and let's pick one for this month's audio rewind. If you think you know the answer to this month's audio rewind, send your guesses to contest@retrowdw.com. All correct entries will be entered in a random drawing to pick the winner. Please submit your entry by September 7th, 2020. All right, well, it's time for this month's topic. And, we usually choose, a ride or a specific attraction or an event. But when we get into how Walt Disney World has changed over time, there are certain large-scale construction projects that happen that bring forth, not only changes to the park and new attractions, but overhauls of lands and areas that I think we need to cover, as in this month's episode, from kind of a larger view before we dive down into each of those attractions in great detail, because there was a lot with this and a lot with the history of the Tomorrowland rehabilitation and refurb, if you will, in the early 90s. Much like the Fantasyland refurb that we had recently and the one that happened in Disneyland. These are all parts of the history that we want to make sure that we discuss and record and talk about. So Brian and Hal are going to lead us through this. JT and I are armed with some notes from our favorite Burn Bomb guide, as we mentioned earlier. I guess there was more to this overlay of Tomorrowland than more than meets the eye, other than just bolts and fake facades put over the original stuff. So, Hal, Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's dial back to the early 90s. And JT, this was right in your wheelhouse when you were there and a young boy, and we've got some great photos and everything to discuss. So, Brian, Hal, take it away.
It's interesting that you brought up the Disneyland new Fantasyland there, the refurb there in 1983. And then the expansion of Fantasyland in the Magic Kingdom around 2009, 2010, I think, is when they started that. Maybe a couple years after that. But and then this one, the Tomorrowland in Walt Disney World. And the reason is that all three of them are attempts to tailor the parks to a new audience. More so than anything else that they do for any single attraction. It's an attempt to either update or expand an area to address a new kind of audience. And that's a lot of what was going on with the decision to invest in Tomorrowland in the mid-1990s. I'm going to start off, we recently acquired a packet of press releases issued by the Walt Disney Corporation in 1994-95, and the new Tomorrowland featuring Alien Encounter is right here across the masthead. And of course, we'll post this on our site when we post the show notes. But what I'm going to do is, as we move through, I'm going to read you the introduction here, and then as we move through, I'll read you the introduction to each ride as we discuss them in each area. But I'll read you the introduction here, and we'll talk a little bit about the overall overlay of the look they were going for, and then get to some of the individual attractions. So, the future that never was is here. A whole new Tomorrowland is taking shape in Magic Kingdom Horizon, giving the land the look of a city like those imagined by sci-fi writers and movie makers of the 1920s and 1930s, complete with new attractions exploring space and time. Instead of the serious look of the real future of the original Tomorrowland, the new version creates a fantasy world where shiny robots do the work, planet-hopping rocket ships battle space aliens, and time machine travel becomes a thrilling reality along the Avenue of the Planets. It's Flash Gordon-ish, Buck Rogers-like neighborhood of sky-piercing beacons and glistening metal, illuminated by a celestial spectrum of neon colors, of whisper-quiet conveyances gliding along as an elevated highway, and rockets circling among spinning planets. The overall effect created for Walt Disney World guests is a friendly future town, neighborhood atmosphere like the other lands of the Magic Kingdom. And it's home to 2 brand new attractions, the Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter and Transportatarium. Didn't screw it up. Plus new versions of several Tomorrowland attractions. The 1995 debut also marks changes in the restaurants and shops of the original Magic Kingdom land that opened in 1971, and that's where our story should briefly begin, is the desolate land that was Tomorrowland in October of 1971.
But Brian, can I do a translation on that marketing thing? It was beautifully written, by the way.
I didn't write it, but you're welcome.
It roughly translates to, Dear Walt Disney World guests, we know we don't have enough money for Discoveryland at Euro Disneyland at this time. We're going to overlay this land with things to pseudo give you that Jules Verne feeling. Thank you.
Man, so negative. Now I'm going to go give you mine when I was 11 years old. This made Magic Kingdom fun for me. I was completely blown away, and like my head exploded when I saw this in the dark. It was amazing.
See, I remember thinking this is not Discoveryland. This is, wait a minute, this is, like, I thought we were going to get cool stuff like that.
You were one of the 8 people that know about Disneyland Paris, or you were a Disney.
I mean,
I
was an annual. I had a share. I had the shareholder magazines.
Yeah, I know. He's the gold key.
Shareholder here.
So what is interesting is there was a very brief period of time when Discoveryland was actually thought of for a Tomorrowland redo. And there was a model that appeared in the Magic Kingdom at the end of the Walt Disney Story that showed Discoveryland, and it included some aspects of the Tomorrowland that we got, like the Timekeeper was there. But then there were things like the Astronomers Club, which was a redo of the what is now called the Tomorrowland Terrace, which was then called the Plaza Pavilion. Which, they would potentially bring in live actors portraying Jules Verne and people that you saw in Timekeeper to kind of interact with folks, kind of the way that they did with I think it was called the Explorers Club over in Euro Disney, a very short-lived restaurant in Adventureland, where there were supposed to be, actors involved with it and kind of pivoting also off of what was happening in Pleasure Island. For whatever reason, they chose not to go with that, and they went with this kind of Buck Rogers 1930s feel instead.
Well, and we should start at 71 because when we covered that in one of our very first episodes, the Wedway People Mover wasn't there. It was a dead end track over top of the 2 Circle Vision 360 theaters. There was no Space Mountain. There was
no Carousel of Progress.
No Carousel of Progress. So you had the mission to the moon at that point.
Flight to the moon.
Flight to the moon, which was already outdated because we had landed on the moon 2 years earlier, and at that point, like 8 guys had already been on the moon, so it was like old news. And then you had the America the Beautiful, right? Was on the other side. I think that was
the Circle Vision 360 film.
Yeah, so that was on that side.
And then a well-themed steam train, which matched Tomorrowland was.
and the cars, the Grand Prix, and so like that was, and the Astro. Well, it was the Starjets then.
Well, but that didn't show up until
that's
right. That came later. And when did If You Had Wings open?
72.
72.
Okay.
There was a stage. Wasn't there a stage?
There
was
a tent at one point.
Yeah, maybe that's...
There was a tent.
So if those are interested in hearing about the original opening attraction, as you point out, Brian, it was one of our early episodes. It was episode number 1.
There
it
you
wasn't
go.
We had a pre-opening episode, but listen to episode number 1.
So we apologize for the poor quality when you go back and listen to it, but they get better. So then in 75, they put a bunch of money in, and you had Space Mountain get built and Wedway People Mover completed.
Yeah.
And they, I guess at that point, added the Starjets. Right?
Yeah, Carousel of Progress comes in from
Carousel of Progress
Disneyland.
comes. So basically, they doubled the size of the land in '75, and that was how it stayed. For there were some attraction updates and changes, but that was essentially how it stayed until 1994. The architectural layout of the place was futuristic for 1971.
No, the only thing that they did do, as we found, is like they retiled it after Tokyo Disneyland's, because Tokyo Disneyland's was such a success with the new design that they brought that to Florida. And then, let's see, there was one other... You made me think of another thing that they did, and now I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I got a video here, 94, them tearing them down. It's pretty crazy.
By and large, it had remained architecturally the same since the park opened, and the 90s were the era where what we now regard as classics were just old and dated, and so the land needed a new look as far as they were concerned. And the other problem, they now had 10 years of Epcot under their belt, and they knew that trying to capture the future in a theme park and stay ahead of what was the future was really expensive. And so the focus started to become, in the late 80s, early 90s, how do we get out of this pressure to update everything every few years so it doesn't seem outdated? Because technology, we remember, the start of the 80s, there were rotary phones and your TV had 13 channels, and at the end of the 80s, everybody's got cable and call waiting and answering machines, and nobody had any of that stuff at the beginning. And computers were a quarter of the price that they were at the beginning of the 80s, and just technology moved so fast, probably faster than in any other decade in history.
Yeah, and even if you think about Future World and Tomorrowland are kind of stepping on each other's toes thematically, so you make something for one land, it's like then you're kind of not putting it in the other one, so
right,
kind of having a line of separation there, I think, kind of makes sense.
And so the Magic Kingdom was settling into its, fantasy. I don't want to call it a children's park, but it was a park that was supposed to be welcoming in all corners to children, so let's make the most terrorizing alien ride ever and put it in this new land, which we'll get to.
It is also ironic because I think that whole Buck Rogers style, it would really only appeal to people that were already in their 60s by time their 50s and 60s, in 1990, because only kids that had grown up.
Would we call that maybe the Back to the Future effect, where vintage type things that shouldn't appeal to younger age groups become appealing because they're kind of kitschy? And
that is true. That is true.
That was a phenomenon that I think really developed more in the 80s, and I really do point it to Back to the Future, although Happy Days in the 70s did have a similar effect of kind of idealizing and romanticizing aspects of the 50s culture and the diner culture and the general Americana from that era, which of course bred Disneyland.
Right. Typically people get really excited about things, like you'll see a resurgence of stuff about like 30 years back.
Right.
So, in the 1980s, a lot of people looked back at the 1950s for inspiration on stuff. So if you watched like Pee-wee's Playhouse, you saw a ton of like 1950s things getting rejiggered into like kitsch of...
Yeah, but I really do think that that's the first instance of it. It's common now for the 30-year look back and for things, and now it's even more like a 20-year thing. It was like 2012, VH1 was doing I Love the OOs. Like, hey, buddy, that just happened 2 years ago. Like, what are we doing retrospectives on it now? But I don't think like people in the 70s were looking at the 40s, or people in the 50s were looking at the 30s or the 20s. Like, I really think that's a phenomenon that started with this, and I'm calling it the Back to the Future effect. This Happy Days Back to the Future thing where they looked back at the 50s. And I don't think there really was a look back before that.
That is potentially true, because up until the 80s, I think there was always something that kind of got people excited. Like in the 1920s, they opened up King Tut's tomb, and that created Art Deco, because no one had seen anything like that for 1,000 years, and like that was really cool, and everybody rallied around it. And
never should have given it up.
Yeah, so so you're right. There are some, sort of art movements that happened because of either technological revolutions and we didn't have that in the 80s really. Computers were certainly a big deal, but they didn't completely dominate sort of the look and feel of anything at that time.
Yep.
The other thing too I'll say is, from my perspective at that age, it was Tomorrowland to me seemed just white, like plain and simple. And when I saw this, it was just the explosion of color in the brown rocks and it was just like not just like an Apple store or whatever the whatever it was.
You're right. The clean lines of that mid-century kind of design that and it really was the original Tomorrowland was very much kind of a last gasp of like a mid-century clean lines 50s 60s kind of thing. And you're 100%
like
correct.
Neon lights were everywhere. They didn't have LEDs, and I'm assuming that not very easily, but there was I felt like there was lights on everything, different things. It was like when Buzz Lightyear walks into Pizza Planet, a spaceport. That's what it felt like as a kid walking in there.
It's interesting for me because I was in college at the time that it opened, and I didn't get down there. I don't believe I went down there until 96. So I was kind of indifferent, and I think I was a little nostalgic for the old, excited to see the new stuff, but it never resonated with me. But
I think the other thing that they really tried to do, and Brian, you touched on it a little bit in the press release, is most of the other lands look like there are people that live there, and you're walking through just at a time when there doesn't happen to be people there. So, Main Street is this quaint turn of the century, living Main Street. Frontierland is a real city, that has stores and storefronts and
the Old West, yeah.
The Old West, but there's details like, places to tie your horse up and a laundry and
a water trough.
And none of that existed in Tomorrowland. You never got a feeling that there was a real community that you were walking through. And that was one of the things that they tried to correct with a lot of the placemaking that happened in our 90s redo of Tomorrowland here. You saw things that looked like they could be houses and apartments and stuff bolted on. So that had a lot to do with it too.
Let's talk about what the overall change in design was there, Hal. Since you touched on it,
Sure.
What did they do to it?
So as you said, a lot of it was tearing down sort of that Brasilia super clean white cement, and literally I have photography here of them, knocking plaster down off of the Wedway People Mover holders and things. So they basically tried to turn it into an actual city of the future. So where you had very plain buildings before, they did things like they added a third floor onto the concourse walkway when you come in, and you could see things that looked like apartments on the left and the right above the buildings, and they gave it a very big unified theme. It was kind of this modern city / spaceport with aliens. As Brian mentioned, there was a name given to that thoroughfare when you would walk in off of the hub called the Avenue of the Planets, and it even had an actual street sign there that said Avenue of the Planets to give you that idea. There was a gag right there that was kind of like, and I don't know if in the North we're very accustomed to seeing this. I don't know if they have this in California or other places, but a lot of times, I know where I grew up, when you got off the thruway in Western New York at your small city, there would be a sign right at the entrance. Ours was right off the thruway with like badges saying like "Welcome to your city," with signs from the Lions Club and all the local civic organizations.
Yeah, the Hill Valley sign that's floating in Back to the Future Part 2.
Yes,
or 1.
And they had one of those when you walked in too, with all kinds of little gags and funny things on it.
Little punny organizations.
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah.
I'm trying to find
the Loyal Order of Little Green Beings, the League of Planets. I have the Galactic Association of Retired Aliens.
What were you going to say, Todd?
I never. It's interesting that we talk about this now because I never picked up on that, trying to make it look like a society. And now that you think about like the little guy that supposedly types the newspaper on demand over by the cat,
right.
Yeah, you never really saw that. So yeah, it's an interesting comment.
Yeah. So that was the idea, is to try to give it more of a lived-in feel like a lot of the stuff. Oh yeah, I finally found my photo. You're right, JT. Were you looking at a picture?
Oh yeah.
All right.
That's from
yes,
memory.
and the Tomorrowland Chamber of Commerce welcomes you. There was all this stuff, and yeah, they actually a lot of these names would end up later on. I think they mentioned the League of Planets inside of the queue for Alien Encounter, and they also mentioned a couple of these things on the Tomorrowland Transit Authority. So they took the Wedway, and they tried to make it as if it was an actual transportation line, like sort of a subway that went through Tomorrowland. So there was just a ton of that placemaking.
And some of that's probably still left over today, where you go through the People Mover and what, it's a beauty shop, a beauty salon, right?
Yes,
up top, and they're getting their hair done.
Yep, that's...
So let's start a little bit here. I mean, as we've talked about the general feel, I want to start in the back and kind of move forward. And one of the reasons we'll start in the back is at that point, this is from the end of the press release, they talk about the new Galaxy Palace Outdoor Variety Theater staging Galaxy Search, a League of Planets talent concert, which was a takeoff on Star Search,
right?
The variety show, and starring the Galaxy Palace dancers, famous Disney characters in their best just got in from Saturn costumes, and other galactic performers, including the Poodle Sisters, skating Mobots, stilt walking tripods, and the Monster King. Wow. So that, go ahead now.
Now, the Monster King, if you remember our episode talking about that incredible hot mess called Splashtacular, the Monster King was actually the cyber dinosaur from Splashtacular, redressed with an Elvis wig and sunglasses.
And there are pictures of that, yes.
Yeah, incredible. Now, that theater was tucked in between Carousel Progress and the Skyway building. And
right.
So right now, there's kind of like a Buzz Lightyear place where you can meet and greet, and there was a whole theater back there, which I'm not sure why they took it away. It seems like it's still a useful thing to have, but it's just closed off now.
Yes. But the other thing that was back there, visitors to the new Tomorrowland will also find a super arcade of video games amid giant generators in the Tomorrowland Light and Power Station. So that's still there. I mean, it's in the back there, but it has, over the years, when it was originally it was a mega arcade. There were games where you could win prizes, you could turn in tickets. There was a big section of traditional arcade games and photo booths and everything you would expect to find in your finest mall or boardwalk arcade. And over the years, what has happened is a small gift shop section, and then a larger merchandise section. And now I think there are like a couple of arcade type things along some of the walls, places where you can burn some dollars or probably at this point swipe credit cards. But now it's almost all merchandise.
Yeah, I think it's mostly just a store
now.
So what was interesting during that time period, they actually closed the arcade on Main Street. And I think the reason that they felt like they could do that and get rid of the old mechanical games is, there was a very small arcade, in the Penny Arcade on Main Street. So,
and we'll put our link to our entire show on the Penny Arcade on Main Street in the show notes.
Yeah, so opening up this facility, which was a new addition to Tomorrowland, it was actually constructed next to Space Mountain. That gave them a huge opportunity to greatly expand the size of the arcade there. So arcades are probably still doing well at that point. In Florida, the reason that we've seen a lot of this stuff shut down was there was a law that was passed to try to protect old people from being taken advantage of at some of these electronic bingo parlors. And that law is kind of vague, so a lot of operators stopped doing redemption games to perhaps not fall under the auspices of it. And that's why you saw the arcade shut down pretty much across property, because redemption games are one of the few things that actually make a lot of money. So all that's kind of slowly gone away.
How did Space Mountain exit before this building? Just right outside, or did it?
Yeah, you would come out to the kind of the left of the entrance. So they just kind of bolted that onto
Got it.
the rest of it.
Yeah. So the press release ends by mentioning familiar favorites, like stuff that didn't get much of an overlay, which was Space Mountain, the Grand Prix Raceway, Delta Dream Flight, and the Tomorrowland Transit Authority, formerly the Wedway People Mover. So I guess we'll start there.
Welcome aboard, TTA travelers. We hope you enjoy Tomorrowland Transit Authority's Super Skyway.
The People Mover did get some updates here, not just in the portions of the outside track, which all got that kind of steampunk overlay that the rest of the land got, but some of the interior displays changed, didn't they?
That's true. Yeah. So where before you would still be able to look into some of the attractions, although not as much as you used to. They did add a number of other displays as well. There is one place that looks like it's kind of like a subway, so I guess you're perhaps seeing the other parts of the transportation system. They look like rockets inside. So there's this one section where there's a robot who looks like he's sort of reading a newspaper by this sign that says outgoing departures, and you can see another robot in a rocket kind of like going in a tube by him. So I think that was the red line, perhaps. Where you are on the blue line, is that right? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then there's also this very odd little tableau of a beauty salon that has what I will describe as a dime store mannequin, because you can still to this day see the slits where the hands attached to it. So I think literally.
Could have put
it's
some cuffs or ruffles on there or something.
It's still there, yeah.
Sitting in a chair in front of this kind of screen, and then I think her face is completely obscured by this device.
Yeah, by the bubble thing there.
Remember, Blue Line passengers, for all your future travel, the TTA services all Tomorrowland outbound routes, including the personal rockets in Nottingham, and of course, regular line favorites, the latest in hovercraft community.
This thing on the wall, like a big circle that I think is supposed to be showing you what's going on inside of that, with like her hair being pulled, and it's a very disturbing image inside of that. But they tried to jazz it up a little bit. They kept the model of Progress City, and came up with like a little thing that says that it's presented by the Tomorrowland Metro Retro Association. So they kind of gave an excuse to be there.
Paging Mr. Morrow, Mr. Tom Morrow. Please contact Mr. Johnson in the control tower to confirm your flight to the moon.
But yeah, it was, and then they updated the voiceover throughout it from the Horak 1 computer, who gave us the tour before, to just kind of this, deep voice guy, and they would drop all kinds of little funny little puns and things throughout it.
Attention, all visitors from Galaxy M31. Please keep forward-facing tentacles clear of oncoming Metroliner vehicles. Thank you.
So, so that was the People Movers update. And as you would come out of the power station and enter that there, above you, the Starjets had gotten a refurb into the Astro Orbiters that we know today.
Yes.
And so the Starjets were very almost stock spinner ride looking kind of little rocket ships. And this, it's obviously a lot more elaborately themed now.
Yes, it has bowling balls attached to it. I know those are planets. I'm sorry, those are planets.
Yeah, you have to have bowling balls.
We lost the Saturn V rocket in the middle.
Yes, we did. We did lose the Saturn V rocket there, and
it is lovely though. I mean, it definitely looks a lot more interesting than the.
Well, there was stuff that you felt like you were gonna hit it going around, or it was like things in the way, not just the the scenery.
And I'll tell you, the handful of times I've rode that, because I never want to wait in the line, but when there used to be late night park events, I'm like, hey, there's no line for Astro Orbiter, let's ride it. It goes fast up there.
Yeah,
you feel like you're going fast.
It's one of the faster spinners, I think, of all.
Yeah. But off to your left as you're walking out there is the Carousel of Progress. And the reason none of us need to prepare for this next segment is that is when the final scene was last updated. So it got a brand new scene in 1994-95. And if you were curious about the changes, you can go watch it today because it's still there. 25 years later.
That's right.
Yep.
Virtual reality, the whole thing, the voice
Everything that you have
activation.
today is there. It's the best time.
Yeah.
See?
So,
And we also did an
there.
elaborate episode on that, so we'll put a link to go listen to.
we did do an elaborate episode on the prior changes, but I think we included the last.
We
scene
did.
in
We
there.
did include the changes as well.
But so we won't go over it a lot. But there are Laserdisc players and car phones and voice-activated ovens and the mom working at her laptop right in the kitchen. What else we had? The remote control lights.
Yeah, I mean the irony of voice commanded everything. I mean the irony of this is like it was intended to be 6 years in the future, and then it just never ever got updated again. So
and so we can see that yes, all of those things came to pass to the point where they are now outdated by 20 years or so. It's at a point now where I'm like, I want them to update it, but I also don't want them to update it. It's kind of become a classic now. One of the changes that they did make behind us there is you not only lost the rocket on top of Starjets there, but you also lost your RCA spacemen.
Oh, I love them
outside of
cool.
Space Mountain because that sponsorship changed, didn't it, Hal?
that's right. Yes, FedEx somehow took over as the official sponsor of Space Mountain.
Because when you want to ship yourself into space, you ship yourself in a FedEx rocket, right?
Right. Well, I guess it kind of made sense. So if you're a future city and, deliveries are an important thing.
Well,
so,
they put packages throughout the queue. There was some things there. And,
They did.
And then
There were
the end, it's people move, or I'm sorry. Gosh, I lost the speed ramp. Gosh. All that was FedEx themed with, moving the box of bones and all that.
That was also when we got the very funny Q video where they had, remember all the different actor, the guy that played Ortho from Beetlejuice was in there amongst other I guess I don't want to say they're famous, but like probably all comedians. So, like there was about a half-hour long loop with a combination of like old movies, old sci-fi movies, and like movie reel things with a lot of funny gags. So it gave you something to watch while you were waiting for Space Mountain because that line.
And then
used to be,
outside of
like,
Space Mountain, I
terrible.
think this is when the palm trees appeared.
That's right.
Those things and they got the one that's hanging crooked or hanging down. It's broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the idea was supposed to be, I think, that those would collect energy.
Yeah, the coconuts
during
were the
the day.
holders. And I found this out while researching. The one that's hanging down like limp, that one has no coconuts on it. They're gone. I never noticed. I need to look now next time I'm there because I always think like, oh, that one's broken. But
yeah, now some people speculate that at some point those actually used to like open and close, but I never saw that.
I heard
happen.
it's an urban legend. That's what I read.
Okay,
but,
that would make sense because I never really saw that.
But yeah, and then the other thing too, which I almost want to dig into more because I just found this out before the show, was there was actually a FedEx lounge in Space Mountain. And it was meant for FedEx employees. You could go in there, get a cold drink and stuff, and then you could also jump the line, go to the front, and I think that's it.
Yeah, so RCA had been the sponsor for 20 years from when it opened in 75 until the 95. I guess 2 10-year contracts is my guess. So there was an RCA lounge. And then when FedEx took it over, FedEx had the lounge.
Got it.
And not far from there, over in that area where Hal's talking about where the stage was, at one time had I guess attached to the America the Beautiful or Circle Vision 360 was the what eventually became the AAA lounge for the people who were members of the AAA club or whatever it was. If you bought a AAA vacation package, you got the special parking at the Magic Kingdom, but there was also a lounge there in Tomorrowland where you could go, which I believe I've been told it's now just closed off. I think it might be used for Buzz Lightyear's break room.
Oh, fun.
But like back then there was there was a whole like AAA Diamond Club comfort center where you could go in and use the bathroom and get a drink. And
they should have opened those up instead of putting the tents back there a few years ago.
Oh, the cabanas.
Yeah, the cabanas.
That didn't last long. So on the Transportatarium, it says, because time travel was such a prominent part of early science fiction writers' visions, Disney Imagineers have combined Circle Vision 360 technology with audio animatronics figures and special in-theater effects to create an adventure to centuries past and those yet to come, all within an auditorium that literally surrounds guests with sights and sounds. During their journey, today's travelers meet famous inventors and visionaries of the machine age. Of course, this attraction was later renamed the Timekeeper. And if you want to learn all about it, you should listen to our interview with Jeff Blythe.
Did we meet some guy that did something with
that? Yeah, the guy that shot it. Todd asked him a great question about the mirror and how they shot that one scene, and we get into a great discussion about it. But this was a really neat attraction, right? You know, Robin Williams and
star power.
It had star power, but it was also really unique. Mm-hmm. I mean, what a unique way to use the Circle Vision technology.
Yeah. I recall not knowing what it was, too. I think I might have mentioned this
exactly the same
back, when we did this episode. It was everything else. Most of these attractions, honestly, the new things, Alien Encounter, which talk about Timekeeper, you didn't really know because it was a whole new exterior. And, they advertised it in a kitschy way that was, like, not exactly describing what it was. So you're like, I'm going to an expo center and I'm going to time travel? All right, let's go see what this is all about.
It's hot. I want to go inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's fascinating is this attraction had a lot of issues of getting people into it for some reason.
We didn't go that first year. Definitely skipped it. Alien Encounter was the one.
It opened with this name, the Transportatarium. It was billed as an outrageous blast through time. And then it opened up. And then suddenly, I have a picture here of December of 1994. There's suddenly like a sign, a permanent placard put out in front of it that looks very fancy with some cool illustrations. It says, "Meet the inventor of Tomorrowland's one and only time machine. See the greatest inventions of all time, today, yesterday, all live." Trying to do something to make people aware that it's there. I think one of the problems with it is the architecture kind of obscured the entrance.
It's like a weird hook left or hook right.
So it wasn't necessarily obvious. And then another few months later, there's basically like a giant banner hanging off the side of the building.
Well, and they would send Timekeeper, and they would send cast members out into the walkway to wave you in.
Yeah,
to kind of,
it's just kind of unfortunately like poorly executed from that point of view.
Well, both of those buildings, I mean, we've talked about that. They're constrained by size. Both the Alien Encounter building and the Circle Vision 360 building, because the attractions prior that resided there were tended to be small, so it was difficult to do something with them far off the beaten path from what was already in there. Like, you couldn't put a ride in there; it's just not big enough.
Right.
So that's part of what we'll talk about when we get in depth on Alien Encounter. But that's part of the thing. There is they're both wedged in these relatively small buildings, unless you want to move the restaurant out, where Magic Kingdom's largest restaurant, which is connected to the building where Alien Encounter is. So we're going to do Alien Encounter in depth next month. We're going to do the whole episode on Alien Encounter, both versions. And its conception and all that.
Both versions, you mean Stitch, or do you mean both versions?
Well, no, I mean the original Alien Encounter, and then the second Alien Encounter, the tweaked version that lived much longer before the Alien Incursion when Stitch came. But we won't get to that now. We will say that part of the driver for this land was the marquee new attraction was Alien Encounter.
This is probably the one that really was going after that other demographic that we're looking at, right? They were trying to get teens in, and it was really a different type of look.
I mean, you would call it the first PG attraction in the Magic Kingdom.
There you go.
And they promoted it as such. The promos, the videos. I mean, it was always that you saw that trailer where the glass breaks and all that. 25 different ways on the Disney TV channel. Everything. It's been all over.
Welcome to the universe of excess. You're about to experience the latest scientific wonder brought to you by Excess Tech, the galaxy's leader in innovative high technology. But first, let me share with you the fascinating story of our company.
But those weren't the only changes, because as we talk about the whole atmospheric change, so that includes the restaurants and the shops. And the changes that happen there, we'll talk the restaurants first because it's our favorite topic and it's what we always get the most email on. First, underneath the Astro Orbiter station was, for years and years, was the space bar. And the space bar didn't have a big menu. In fact, we've got an awesome picture on our 1975 food service set of that also includes the menu, which we can throw in the show notes again. I know we just had it in the show notes a couple months ago, but it's a great picture. And it does, you can see the menu. Basically, it's chips and soda, and they never a hot dog maybe. You didn't have an extensive menu there.
It's a wasted name, in my opinion.
It is, except the lunching pad, even though we're used to it, is kind of a whimsical name too. So
like a bar, they could have had like foaming drinks and Galaxy's Edge style stuff, and no, it's just.
And I will say, once they changed it to the lunching pad, we'll go to the handy dandy 1996 burn bombs guide here. Located at the base of the Astro Orbiter in the center of Tomorrowland's vast concrete plaza, this small spot offers chips, as well as assorted desserts and a variety of soft drinks. It really did have a limited menu. Now, it's one of my favorite stops because it's where I get a pretzel. I get a pretzel with my little cup of cheese and a Diet Coke. It's also, because it's a fountain soda place, it's where you can get a free cup of water, if you, or water as we say it in Philadelphia. And so it's this frequent stuff, and they have hot dogs and stuff now. But back then, it really was, for years and years, it was like chips and brownies, and that was it. Like they didn't have a really extensive thing there. But it was also home to Tomorrowland is also home to the Magic Kingdom's largest restaurant. So it was originally called the Tomorrowland Terrace. It was where they had the broiler. Come on, what was it? The broiler.
Like the Broil Master 3000.
Broil Master 7000 or
yes.
something. That could do the 2,000 burgers an hour or something like that. Some crazy number that it could cook. But that was what you did. Like, people went in there and they served hundreds of hamburgers every hour. Like, people went through there, and that's where you got your meals. And it's really interesting because we have both the 95 and 96 guides here. They redid it as Cosmic Rays Starlight Cafe. Major refurb. And before, like I said, it was a pretty stark, simple place where you walked in and you got your sandwich or whatever and sat down and you ate it. They also had the stage inside that used to rise up from underneath, and we've got some films of that where live bands would play. Live singers, live entertainers would perform while you ate. So when they reimagined the land, they reimagined that stage and figured out a way to cut the live entertainment budget by putting a Chuck E. Cheese style animatronic
He's still
there.
live.
He's still there.
Sunny
He
Eclipse.
is. Sunny Eclipse is there performing his lounge act for you while you dine.
Oh, bright little star, though I'm light years away from her now, I can't help but to feel that somehow we're both wishing on you.
It's interesting because, like I said, when they first opened, what they did with Cosmic Rays was they took their various ordering bays, which we do have pictures of from 1975. They took their various ordering bays in 1995 and turned them into different stations. So one of them, a big thing that took off there was chicken, right, Hal?
That's right. This was right in the middle of the entire of the United States thinking that they needed to eat more healthy. So we were all caught up in a wave of that, plus a little restaurant called Boston Market completely changed the way we ate, and everybody went nuts for rotisserie chicken in the early to mid 90s.
Yes, so they put in a rotisserie chicken counter and had various meals that involved rotisserie chicken, And then there was a soup and salads, maybe, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess a sandwich area too. I think there were 3 bays. But listen to the difference as it was going through the transition. So the 95 Birnbaum's Guide, which would have been written in 94, knew it was getting a new name, but they're basically advertising the old menu. It says the largest fast food spot in the Magic Kingdom, where the menu features hot and cold sandwiches, soups, and salads. That's the extent of the Cosmic Rays Starlight Cafe in 95. In the 96 guide, after the refurb had been done and it reopened, there's like James Joyce wrote the entry here. He said, Cosmic Rays Starlight Cafe, the largest fast food spot in the Magic Kingdom, where 3 distinctive menus are offered. Cosmic Chicken serves rotisserie chicken dinners and drumettes. Blast Off Burgers has cheeseburgers, double cheeseburgers, and vegetarian cheeseburgers. And Starlight Soup. I have to find out what Starlight Soup is now.
Ooh.
Like, come on.
It's probably chicken noodle.
With little star-shaped noodles.
Yeah.
Starlight Soup, Salad, and Sandwich, which was the 3rd counter, offers soups, Caesar salad, chef salad, grilled chicken sandwiches, and cheesesteak sandwiches. And let me tell you, it's a bold Philadelphian who orders a cheesesteak sandwich outside of southeastern Pennsylvania.
Or soup in the summertime, for that matter.
In addition, well, they still had a senior citizen contingent back then that would go to the parks. And as you know, a senior citizen, 95 degrees out, they want a hot cup of soup and a cup of coffee with their lunch.
Senior coffee.
Sanka. In addition, a child's menu and soft drinks are available. So, you're walking in there, you have to pick your line. Who's standing in the rotisserie chicken line? Who's standing in the Starlight Soups and Salads line?
This is not going well.
Like,
This is just like the market down in the land, right?
The easy thing is there's no Disney dining plan, so you just give $20 to one person, give $20 to the other, tell them what to order in each line, and then you all meet back at a common table and watch Sunny Eclipse entertain you while you enjoy your Starlight Soup.
Yeah, unless you were stuck in the back half.
Right.
which there was really nothing to look at. But there was also some lovely terrace dining too outside.
That's the quiet part.
Yeah.
It still has, even to this day, those like very 70s glass windows. The design of it, it's horrible still. The little.
Oh yeah, they didn't. I mean, what they really did to the inside was a paint job. Now they did greatly improve the bathrooms. Like they did like everything in the Magic Kingdom, man, they really knocked the bathroom rehab out of the park. Like the bathrooms everywhere in the Magic Kingdom now are so much nicer than they were in the 70s.
That's not mentioned in the press release, by the way.
Let's keep going. They should. I'm really disappointed that Birnbaum never mentioned that because it's a totally lost opportunity.
They do mention the other two restaurants that got renamed. Plaza Pavilion Terrace Dining. Which was just east of the Plaza Restaurant. It's still there, Tomorrowland Terrace. Yep. This sleek spot on the edge of Tomorrowland serves pan pizzas, fried chicken strips, and Italian specialty sandwiches. Some particularly pleasant tables look past the graceful willow trees nearby towards the hub waterways and an impressive topiary sea serpent.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we'll all remember that also went through that weird phase a few years later where it became the Tomorrowland Noodle Terrace.
I was just saying that, yeah, which one was Noodles?
The Noodle Station, right?
The Noodle Station.
Yeah, it was Noodle Station, and then that didn't last too long.
No.
Was there a big noodle trend after the rotisserie chicken trend that I
don't know,
but
it never seemed open. Like it was always...
Well, that's what I was going to say. There was a joke. I remember somebody did a write-up before it got reinvigorated. The old, what's a Tortuga Tavern now, which used to be El Pirata y El Pirico.
Yes.
And there's a write-up on it somewhere from maybe 10 years ago on a blog where it says, I think the Spanish translation of that means this place is never open. Because it was. It became, like, I literally had gone for years and years, and that restaurant was never opened over in Adventureland.
So that was kind of like the seasonal... Those two restaurants, there were several restaurants that were like seasonal.
And I was never there
overflows,
in the summer or at Christmas, so... Like, Christmas week,
right.
Those things would open. But otherwise, they were closed. And that was the same thing with that Noodle Terrace. Like, you would only see it open, like, at the busiest days of the year.
I loved the decor, though. They had that, like, brushed stainless steel like all over the place.
Yep.
It looks so
Yep.
cool. And then like they put like all new chairs in there, and I think there's like 1,000 chairs in there that.
Well, they do the dessert parties there now, the hub dessert parties and all. That was the last time that I actually ate there, or if I was just taking my meal from somewhere else, because the tables were always there to sit at. But they do rope it off for the dessert parties in the evening for the fireworks dessert parties.
I think that's where I ate with Todd on our tour over there, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
That's where the tours eat.
Yeah,
That's
they
where
give
the
us our food
tours eat.
there,
And then the last one is Anti-Gravity's Galactic Goodies.
Oh, it's the ice cream.
This small spot between the Merchant of Venus, fantastic name, and Mickey Star Traders serves natural foods, fruit smoothies, soft serve frozen yogurt, soft drinks, and fresh fruit. I think it's just ice cream now.
This is when the soft serve kick was. Everybody wanted, or frozen yogurt kick, whatever that
Yes.
was.
Oh, that was big, yeah.
But fresh fruit and stuff, like, I mean...
Probably got like the strawberry frozen yogurt with some chunks on it,
So the thing is, in 1995, when they was like, oh, they have fresh fruit, like you would go over and it would be fruit that somebody like cut and put in a little container for you. Now you get fresh fruit, they hand you like a Del Monte peaches and syrup,
You get a
like
clementine.
with the little, with like the little thing you rip off. Like, oh, all right, I guess it's my fruit. Like, thanks. I still can't get my hand around all the packaged stuff now.
So we also for merchandise we had a couple of changes, just mostly a name and also some interior decoration. So the spaceport became as you said the Shakespearean Merchant of Venus, which hopefully I think probably most of our listeners will understand, but probably JT probably didn't get that reference when you were a kid.
Spaceport?
No, the Merchant of Venus.
No.
Do you get it now?
No.
Okay, it's a pun on the Merchant of Venice, which is a Shakespearean play, which I haven't seen. I just know it. I just know
it. Yeah, I just know the name. Yeah.
And then Mickey's Mart became Mickey's Star Traders, and it got quite a little bit of an up, which I think was a Disneyland name, right? That's where the big neon thing is outside in the Disneyland. We got I think that one was called Star Traders. So we got a new sign outside, and they kind of redid some of the decor in the interior, but largely that's just kind of like the two gift shops within Tomorrowland. But it helped bring it
and there were
theme.
two smaller spots we should mention. The first is the Skyway Station shop.
Yes.
So where you exited the Skyway Station, there was a small spot tucked away near the Tomorrowland terminus of the Skyway to Fantasyland. Great for Disney souvenirs. Okay.
I remember film and some hats. It was like a counter.
The suntan lotion, things
like
that.
Yeah, exactly. Very small.
The second one, which Hal and I talked about pre-show, which is great, Geiger's Counter.
Yes.
That one.
Which everyone is still there.
Yeah.
But it's not Geiger's Counter anymore.
It's a DVC sales booth now.
Yes.
It was previously called the Space Place.
And
before that, it was a ticket booth. So that actually started as the Tomorrowland ticket booth. Then
Tomorrowland ticket booth
has survived.
And at Geiger's Counter, this small shop featured a variety of souvenir hats. So if the sun in Tomorrowland was getting to you, you could go there and they could be your hatter there. Geiger could be your hatter.
On your way to your Speedway, which changed names at this time, too.
It did, and I guess we'll include it in Tomorrowland, right? Like it's technically a Tomorrowland, original Tomorrowland attraction.
Attention Indy drivers. To ensure your safety on the track, remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened.
Yes, so what's interesting is that based on the voiceover on the Tomorrowland Transit Authority, I believe that they were at some point actually considering changing it into more of an Autopia, or at least kind of giving it that name, because they don't refer to it as a speedway. They refer to it as the voiceover guy talks about it being like traffic and doing a traffic report like over Tomorrowland's highways. So I think there must have been an aborted idea to try to turn that into something fancier. But at some point they actually signed the deal with the Indianapolis 500, and it kind kind of got an Indianapolis 500 theme, I think a couple of years after that. So
because that commuting theme works better for Disneyland, where it has kind of that highway and backcountry road feel.
Yeah, so it became the Tomorrowland Grand Prix for a short period of time, and then I think it turned into like the Indy 500 Speedway or something after that. So there was a little bit of a change. I think one of the things that you can pretty safely say about this Tomorrowland redo is that it was really heavily done on the hub side, and as you kind of traveled more towards the back in Fantasyland, like the level of stuff that was done to it started to get less and less and less, and then by the time you got to the Speedway, it was like practically nothing. So
I will say too that in November of '95, that is when the Disney Speedway, the real one, the big one, opened up, and that was an Indy track for the Indy Racing League. So I'm guessing that's around when they rethemed.
That would make sense.
Because Indy was there and ready to go, ready to spend the money.
That's good. That's good. Hey, kept it going for a while. They put down the bricks and they gave it that whole theme for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
Well, we can't leave the new Tomorrowland without talking about Todd's favorite attraction.
Delta Dream Flight?
No, not Delta Dream Flight. This one's free. You don't have to wait in line to get to this one. Tell everybody what your favorite part of New Tomorrowland was there, Todd. It was a big silver ball, but it wasn't a big silver ball.
Brownish.
The germ ball.
Graphite colored.
The big germ ball, yes. The Kugel ball.
We have to talk about the Kugel ball, which I only ever remember is there when Todd brings it up. The Kugel fountain is a floating sphere fountain that is located, that they added to the new Tomorrowland when they opened it back up in the 90s, and it's a water sculpture where a sphere kind of sits in a hollow pedestal supported by water, by a film of water. Pressurized water flows between the sphere and the socket, and it creates what they call a hydrostatic bearing that is nearly frictionless. So it looks like this giant ball is floating, and there's water cascading down the sides of it. And the one they put in Tomorrowland had the planets on it, right? Wasn't it like the
had
solar
all sorts
system?
of different things on it, and
it was kind of like a constellation map mixed with a road map, because there'd be like little markers like I-5 on the lines.
We did discover through Howard Bauer's series of staged photographs over time that it's like they put it in, and then every week somebody was like, you know what we ought to do this, and they kept adding things and changing.
It gets
things
really
to
bizarre.
It, right?
Yeah, it gets more and more steampunky, and
it starts off very beautiful and simple.
Yeah,
so
it starts off in May of '94 as a well, it was a little bit more complicated. So it has like an all cement base with an arm and kind of like a pointer thing at the top, with the Tomorrowland Transit Authority like written in that ITC Ana font that was used everywhere. So it stays like that for a little while, and then by August of '94, it broke. The cement probably cracked or something, because then the ball is like completely cordoned off, and they have black tarp all around it, and they were trying to figure out what to do with it. By November of the year, the ball is gone, and they have replaced the cement part of it with metal, and they put a railing around it, probably so that way you were less likely to slip your fingers underneath where the ball was.
Oh.
So potentially there might have been a little accident there.
Oh my god!
Somehow.
Yeah, doesn't it weigh like 13 tons or something crazy?
Something. And then by February of '95, it's back, and they kind of restored the original design with the little arm that goes on top of it. But then they also added a map of Tomorrowland onto the back of it for some reason. So, the idea is it's supposed to be that kids can walk up to it and like push on it, and make the big ball.
Yeah, it spins around.
Stuff, right?
It spin it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is Robo News was there.
Yeah, so I'll talk about some of the other stuff that was kind of around Rocket Tower Plaza,
Yes.
which is what the
but
area underneath the
I
asteroid.
wanted to add one more thing about the Kugel Ball. That they're all.
Yeah.
This is not just. They're all over the place. So they're all around the world.
Fact,
you got one down the road from me.
Yeah, I have one right a couple towns over in Lansdale.
Yeah.
They put one in the Railroad Plaza about 20 years ago. It was a major controversy when they were spending the money on it at the time to in the refurb of the plaza. But I when we were prepping for this episode, I'm like, is that still there? Yep, it's still there. I have to go up and see it at some point, I guess, now and pay my respects. But there's like Kennedy Space Center has one. There's
a couple zoos that have Tulsa
The
Zoo.
Wikipedia article says both Disneyland and Disney's California Adventure have them. So, I guess there's one in Tomorrowland and Disneyland. And it says California Adventure, but it's Wikipedia, so it's a 50-50 chance it's correct.
Yep. Must have been popular for a while. So somebody knew somebody in the Kugel Ball selling business.
Well, it is a very unique thing, different than just having a fountain somewhere. So you can have like a water feature that isn't. There's one in the lobby of the Radisson Blue Hotel in Kuwait City. But yeah, but the United States, there's like 70, 80 of them listed here.
So check out the Wikipedia article.
So check out the Wikipedia article on the Kugel Fountain, which we'll link to, and there might be one in a city near you.
Right.
And send us your photos of you at the Kugel Balls.
Yes. Everybody who sends us a photo, we'll send you a poster.
The Disneyland ones are showing at Pixar Pier, apparently, and also in Tomorrowland as well. But there it is in the center.
There's one at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Huh.
Martin Luther King always loved Kugel Balls.
There's the Reading Hospital in Reading, Pennsylvania. Actually, there's one in Temple University in Philadelphia too.
Wow,
I'm just going to have to start a whole.
I want the
I'm
tour
gonna have to
de
start a
Kugel
tour.
with Brian.
Once you knock off all the presidential libraries, you have something new to visit.
Near you, there's one at Storyland in Glen, New Hampshire.
I know where that is. It's not
well,
far.
head out there tomorrow.
Saturday, let's go.
Put the little scamp and the dogs in the car and head out and
Go
see
see
it.
the Kugel Ball.
Don't touch it, though.
Yeah, it's a germ factory right now.
The only one in Florida, Howard, is the Space Center and Magic Kingdom. So.
All right.
Dang.
That's weird. Huh. Well, let's talk about your Robo news.
Yeah.
Because he recently disappeared.
Gone.
Forever within the last year. So he was a sort of a static robot figure. I guess he's supposed to be kind of like a newsie, sort of like a robot newsie. He had kind of a jaunty hat on.
Yeah, the paperboy hat.
Yeah, like the paper. Yeah, although he looks kind of depressed. His mouth kind of goes in a sad way, which is I'm not sure what that's all about. But he's kind of this very 1930s robot, very reminiscent of Roly Poly Oly. If you saw that show on the Disney Channel, although he's tall, it's mostly silver with blue and red. He's called Robo News, N-E-W-Z, and it's billed as being up to the minute. So the idea was supposed to be that, and he had like a little typewriter mechanism in a glass ball in his chest.
He looked like the typewriter that would roll out there on Sesame Street. There's a little letter of the week.
Right. There's a little sign by it that says "Printed while you wait." So the idea was supposed to be that that as you walked up to it, and there's a little motion sensor on there, so he would talk to you, have a little pitch, and then you could look down in the glass and you could see the newspaper there, and then I guess that's if you put your money in, that's where you would theoretically like take the newspaper out, and they actually went through the bother of printing a newspaper to go in there. So you could see it was a copy of the Tomorrowland Times. There's a big picture of Saturn on the front, and it says, "Time traveler arrives day early to Science Center," because the Metropolis Science Center was where Alien Encounter took place. There's also a news about excess tech coming to Earth, so it tied into the land there. And then it says, "Ringleader captured on Saturn." Wow, 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 wow. So,
got it.
Yeah.
So it bears mentioning, I mean, we'll get into it more next month, but those references to Alien Encounter, the rocket ship with the alien in it on the Wedway People Mover line, the mentions of it throughout the land of it being an alien spaceport, they were all tying it back into that one attraction, the marquee attraction, Alien Encounter.
Yeah.
So it really influenced the whole land and that whole design, throughout the land.
Now, the other thing I want to touch on, a couple things here. With Robo News, this was like a thing for me. The use of plexiglass and clear glass or whatever they used was prominent in this build, I feel like, different places. And Robo News, if you look at some of the older pictures, the plexiglass covering the papers just was so sun-baked you couldn't see the papers inside.
Oh.
Like, that's how gross it got. And the other thing, which, I mean, it took me years to track this down, not saying I spent years doing it, but, just to, get home and remember to do it. When you walked into New Tomorrowland, the big arching sign that's now white and it's just simple, it used to have all those wires and hoses and different things. I remember it vividly as a kid. It had a very clear globe around the whole thing, except like the outermost part.
Yep.
Years later, they switched it to more like flat circle pieces of plexiglass because that original globe got so yellowed and gross, they realized like either, well, we can't put another one up there, or it's cheaper to do the flat pieces. So this plexiglass, it's evolved over the years, I found, in the land.
Interesting. There were a couple other little pieces of placemaking, like Robo News, which have kind of lived for a while and then would break and then kind of stop being a thing. So one of the things that you may or may not remember is there used to be two kind of like phone booth looking things.
I remember these.
Called the Metrophone that were placed on opposite sides of Rocket Tower Plaza. And at first, when it opened, they didn't do anything, really. And then I think finally the audio started working, and the idea was like that the two of them were tied together. When it did finally start working, what it was like a video phone with a closed circuit feed, and then it ran a little deal where it would kind of like invert the colors. So you would be looking at a person on the other side talking to you, and they were, instead of being flesh colored, it's like they were colored green. So it was supposed to be like you were talking to an alien, where they just actually inverted the colors.
It reminded me of just like an old, like, I don't know how to describe it, like an old black and white display, but not like, like if I was to show like an old, I'm trying to think of a tech device that used to do this, like it would like, oh, it has video on it, but like, a computer before video screens type things were on your computer.
It was kind of pixelated, I think, as I recall.
It was just very like greenish browns and and I remember like seeing a bunch of kids on it when I was looking at it one time as a kid, like, wow, hey, and you waved, then you moved on because it was everybody wanted to try it.
Just a fun little 2-second thing. And the other thing, which I don't know if anybody remembers this besides me, I'll be a little shocked because this is one of those things that I think was there for a very brief period of time and then went away very quickly. Those pneumatic things at the banks where you walk up to...
the tubes.
The tubes. Well, they basically had one of those that was supposed to be for mailing postcards. And it was this literal elaborate display. And they had like the actual pneumatic tubes with these postcards in them, and you could walk up and see them, and there were little messages written on them. So on the one you could see the front, and it has a picture, an illustration of like like me, like a guy in a sun hat leaning on the beach, drinking a pina colada or something out of a pineapple, and it says "Greetings from Earth." And it just says a typical Earthling on it, because I guess this would be for aliens who were knocked out by the fact that
a
spaceport. And then there were other postcards with things written on them. So let's see. This one says, "Talk about a small universe. They have a dog named Pluto. Here he is in a place called Tomorrowland. That licked all my food, having a wonderful time. Gryox." And then there's another one that says, "Dear Gaddy, I have seen Earth's main moon, but I have yet to see any of their honeymoons. Strange, for as these are apparently numerous on this planet." And they have addresses that they're being sent to. So it was a neat little display, short-lived, but again, part of this whole placemaking of trying to make it seem like a very lived-in place. And the other thing that I should point out is over by the bathrooms between Mickey's Mart and how there's that little restroom kind of tucked in the niche there?
Yes.
They actually put kind of like windows and some tubes and things in to make it look like there are apartment buildings right above that. And
look at that.
I think those might still be there. I'm not sure. But that was very plain, before, and then let's just add a little. Who wouldn't want to have an apartment over bathroom? I mean, that's
well, it's so funny that we look at these pictures and we bring it up in this context, and you think we've walked past collectively, we've walked past these hundreds of times, and none of us can remember if those windows are still there. It's just not a thing you'd notice.
I think that is one of the things. A lot of it was, maybe too subtle. I'm not sure. There were a lot of things to look at all throughout there, and certainly being more kid focused. So like a lot of times you're just like, I want to go ride Space Mountain. I gotta go. You're not really paying any attention to the little stuff. Oh, another thing is like I have this picture. There was this photo op with like these Buck Rogers kind of shiny rockets that kids could sit in, kind of over by Space Mountain, and those probably lasted a heartbeat before the sun got to them and destroyed the fiberglass. But there was a real attempt to try to build this little micro universe.
They had the Speedway cars sitting there too. They might still have that. You get your picture taken in those.
Yeah.
The other one, which was the date I have in my notes is 1995, was Push the Talking Trash Can showed up as well. And I've never seen him, but he had a big hit on the internet when they were going to remove him. Everybody was freaking out when he broke finally, 20 years later. But I don't know anything about him.
I never saw it.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like I'll throw it in there. It's one of those things where I'll say, I don't ever remember seeing Push, but Rob will be like, "Oh, we saw him 3 times. Here's the day." It's just one of those things that if I saw it, it sailed past me. Because there are times I come upon things in the parks, and I'm with one of like my Floridian lifestyle people who are there all the time, and I'm like, "What is that?" And they're like, "How do you not know what Zippy the Spoon Boy is? He's here." And I'm like, I don't know.
Been coming here 20 years.
Yeah, he's playing in Epcot's Germany pavilion since 1987. I'm sorry, I didn't
Zippy
catch
the
show.
Spoon Boy.
Sorry.
Performing during lunch at Retro Magic 50, Zippy the Spoon Boy. He's got.
He plays the spoon.
Yeah, those 2 spoons put together with the hand of the.
Yeah, but that is a thing that happens. Is like there's stuff that like those windows. Someone will message. Those are my favorite windows. I look at them every time I'm in the park, and it's just something I never noticed before.
Yeah, I can't imagine them going through the bother to remove them at this point. So they, the one thing we forgot to mention about with Carousel Progress is that changing the sign outside once it became Walt Disney's Carousel Progress.
Oh yes,
and turning it into like the big gear motif. And then repainting the outside with all the gears and stuff to.
Well, then the theater was gear themed as well over there.
Yeah.
Also, we had gotten a message when we announced we were doing this episode earlier this week from Resort Ears Radio on Twitter. JT, this is in your wheel well. They said, "What's the deal with the Goodyear speed ramp at the Tomorrowland Transit Authority? Gotta be some historical story. Maybe they don't make any parts any longer to fix it properly, or is it a design issue?" I guess he's talking about how it's frequently broken down now.
Honestly, I don't know the dates off the top of my head and when they came, but the speed ramp is basically just a rolling conveyor belt. It's nothing fancy. I think the Goodyear sponsorship has disappeared. I think they're out of that market, just like they got out of Gatorback serpentine belts for cars. They go in and out of different products, and they keep them running because I think they're simple enough, but I'm not sure where Disney stands on making their own parts or sourcing them from somebody else. But as I dug into it, the world headquarters here in Akron, they had speed ramps kind of sort of all over the building in the main lobby, and then when they closed down, they got rid of them, and now it's just like ramps, so no speed ramps there. So it's one of those things. I don't think it caught on like it was expected, but I was pretty jealous of my sister who works at Goodyear. She rode a speed ramp to work every day. It's like the future. It's kind of cool. So.
And I guess the metal ones that are used in airports and basically escalator material, I guess they're sturdier and hold up better.
Yeah, and you don't have that weird. You wonder. I mean, I love them and I ride them, and you feel those little bumps under your feet, and you're like, "Ooh, that's odd." You wonder if that turned people
those
off.
are the little rollers. Yeah.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. You'd come off like the Pirates of the Caribbean. And you're like, have the long day of walking the Magic Kingdom, and those rollers are running on your feet. Like, man, this feels good.
Yeah, it's like
I wish there was just like a 30-mile ride of this,
it's like
this thing running under my feet.
Like those old barrel foot massagers that were a quarter.
Yeah.
You sit on them. Yeah, I mean, they're very cool and kitschy and vintage, and I mean, they seem to be too, like, for a vertical ascent or descent. That's the way they do it. I've never seen an airport one that's metal go uphill, but I don't know. I don't travel as much to various airports, so. But yeah, that's the speed ramp short version.
I guess the one other thing that we can talk about is part of the redo. Since we had a big discussion about the Liberty Square redo on Twitter, we had a big discussion about Liberty Square, like removing the cobblestones and replacing it with cement work. There was a very extensive program done of like decorative slurry and cement work done in Tomorrowland at the time, where it used to just be like a very gray, flat cement concrete or slurry all throughout Tomorrowland. It's like there are now like large gears, patterns, shapes of gears and different things like all around Rocket Tower Plaza and all up the Avenue of Planets, like if it's all survived, which I think it has.
Colored
so they
concrete
did a lot of
and different.
Yeah, they did a lot of colored concrete and different materials and stuff to kind of jazz up the ground over in that area too.
I mean, it seems like there wasn't. Find something in that land that wasn't touched in this redo. I dare you. I feel like everything had something slightly upgraded at least.
There was this one spot that they missed.
There it is.
Because I have photos.
I was gonna say, like, he has a photo of it there.
Yeah, there was this one area over on so Dream Flight. This would have been before it got turned into Buzz Lightyear. So as the Dream Flight building comes and then kind of turns to go into where that avenue, the Tomorrowland Theater was. They like didn't touch that section at all. There's one they like didn't take down the old sides of the People Mover and put up the steampunk things. They left it. There was like a pattern on the wall. They just kind of painted it. There was a few things where they just kind of left stuff alone.
Well, even I guess Dream Flight didn't really get touched either. That was
the exterior that kind of got left.
I mean, even nothing changed. You can't really change that ride too much to match. It didn't really fit the motif of a steampunky Tomorrowland. It was
right. No, and they didn't do anything to it until until Buzz Lightyear happened. So that just kind of sat.
Other than take the sponsor changed.
Right. Yeah. When it came
Take Flight, wasn't it?
Take Flight. So yeah, there were a couple dead spots there that didn't quite get any spiffing up, but for the most part, they did. They really tried hard to do something with Tomorrowland and change it in a significant way from the old 1970s, Land on the Move, to something different. So
now I don't know what they're doing. It's all over the place, right? I mean, it
is a thematic mishmash of Stitch and monsters,
and the rocks turned blue, and then the sign turned old, and then the old signs are coming back to the hanging over.
It's very confusing right now.
Yeah. So I mean, the prevalent thought was that there is a program in place to kind of restore the 1970s look,
especially with Tron coming.
Yeah. Well, and that. So yeah, so we have seen a lot of this kind of placemaking removed over the course of the last year or two.
Yeah, they cut back that sign outside. Was it Monsters Inc., right? The big sign.
Yep.
That was the biggest sign extension,
and they actually put back. I mean, they literally put it back the way that it was before, with the old pylons with the seats in it. So All that is
the rocks purple for some reason.
Yeah, so all of that has probably been aborted at this point. Who knows? It's like with everything going on, it's
paused.
So
Paused
yeah,
is probably a better.
So there's a chance. There's a lot of things that are supposedly in play or have been, like supposedly Carousel Progress may get a new fourth act. Again, desperately needed. We may see a shift back to the way that it was before. I guess we'll find out in the future.
Cool. Wouldn't it be great if it became a snapshot of progress through the 80s in that scene? Like if they did an 80s, like tech, mid 80s, and it just became, look, here's the turn of the century, and here's the 20s rather, or the 40s, and then the 60s. Just kind of take some snapshots and make it a whole attraction of look how far we came in the 20th century, rather than attempting to make it something that you update every now and then.
Yeah, just make it old, like make it stop at a certain 1985.
Yeah, like that would
big
be
cordless
like
phone.
Have four stopping points and just that be it. Like, Walt loved progress, and this was the progress that was made in the lifetime of his generation. It's just, next month, we're going to wrap up the overall refurb of Tomorrowland. But next month, we're going to talk about the crown jewel, the centerpiece, alien encounter.
Yes.
You'll laugh, you'll scream, you'll hurl. That was the Wayne's World tagline.
Well, and according to Birnbaum, you'll be plunged into darkness.
Guests find themselves caught in an experiment gone awry during what is sure to be the most frightening thriller of all Magic Kingdom attractions, developed in collaboration with George Lucas.
Literally caught, too. You can't move.
No, just beyond the entryway of this future city, guests enter the city's convention center for a demonstration of a new teleportation system from an alien corporation called XS Tech. Company reps have come from their planet to market this new product. Product is in quotes, and are anxious to demonstrate it. But an attempt to transport the XS Tech chief executive from their planet to Earth fails, and the catastrophic results are a close encounter with a frightening alien creature. The show, which replaces Mission to Mars, breaks new ground with special effects, playing on the audience's own fears and imagination to reach a chaotic, emotional experience.
So join with me now, won't you? And together we will seize the future with access.
And I have a recollection, I know we spoke about this before, that I think Rob told me we rode or saw the original version. Because I was there January of 95, I guess is when it opened. And he says we saw the original. So I'm still here to tell the story, so it couldn't have been that scary.
Oh, man.
Well, and that goes to the other end. If you know that's our next episode. We haven't announced our next episode in a while, but if you have any alien encounter stories, any anecdotes, anything you
artifacts, if you have like the old alien,
we'll take anything or pictures. Just let us know, because that's definitely stuff we'd love to put on the show here.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for putting that together. A lot of fun to go back to Tomorrowland. I think one of the other items we've got to hit on is some of the media that we've received, and kind of give some sneak peeks here of what's going on. I'm sure you've got some new designs. You've got the NBA Polynesian that we showed on our movie night, right? You're going to get that out there.
Yep.
And I sent you an idea for the contemporary one.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
the contemporary man and woman. I'll have to find one for Fort Wilderness to complete the original 3. So we've got some ideas for some shirts coming out. We have been getting some, and have recently acquired some really, really interesting pieces of film. And I say film because it truly is film. We have to give a big shout out and thank you to the Miles family down in Florida. They were at a local thrift store and stumbled upon nothing less than a 35 millimeter big whopping print of a film titled, hold on to your horses, get ready for this, Disney.
That's it.
But it opens with a monorail helicopter shot. some sort of. We only looked at some of the frames. The Earful Tower is in it, and it's from Valencia College. So I'm in touch with the librarians there to find out what it is, and we're going to get this transferred over. So this will be our first ever 35 millimeter print. Which I cannot wait. If you thought 16 millimeter looked good,
we should hype this and make this a mystery live show. On YouTube.
It might be.
Well, first we have to find out what it is.
Yeah, it could be terrible for all we know.
I don't want it to be Al Capone's vault where we,
I'm confused though. They were on a 35 millimeter, and then they were doing the Earful Tower as well.
I am assuming that it was a college project. Maybe even a.
So that's like the video era there,
Yeah, I mean, it's about 30 years old from what we can tell, and as soon as I have some more information from Valencia College, we'll try to fill in the blanks on it.
So one of my old alma maters.
It might be. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Did you make this film, Hal?
I don't remember doing that.
We're going to go to all this trouble on the live reveal. Oh, wait.
It's 5 minutes of 35 millimeter Tomorrowland bathroom windows.
That's right. All it is.
Look what they did up there.
We've also acquired a 16 millimeter film. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but that's coming in. We also have somebody who sent us a copy of The Evening at the Magic Kingdom, which is coming in as well. So we'll get that converted over. So thank you to him for saying that. And we've had a lot of great videos how your collection's being drip fed to our YouTube feed. But there was Smart One was a computer coaster. We had, I believe, some more DVC stuff. I can't even remember anymore. Matt puts them out there, and every couple days they're trickling out. So watch our Twitter feeds for that. And Hal surprises me and says, "Oh, I found another box of VHS cassettes." So there's another 2-ton box coming my way.
Let's talk about tonight's episode. Hal's like, I'm getting ready for tonight's episode. He pulls out like a Dagwood sandwich size stack of photos.
You could have sent that to us ahead of time.
Just of new Tomorrowland that he took, in 1993, 94, 95. And he's flipping through them saying, well, this one's dated 12/24/94, and then this one is 4 days later, and you can see they changed the paint here. And
yes. So I'm packing these up to send to Todd, and what I did, because that was one of my heavy usage times, was between 90. I would go to the same spot every 2 or 3 weeks or whenever I went and take a picture, so you can literally watch the old Tomorrowland being demolished and the new Tomorrowland rising up in its ashes from the same location.
This would be the coolest flip book ever.
Yeah, I actually used this on a presentation for a company one time that was pitching Disney on something, because they were in the middle of that. And you could literally crossfade between the pictures, and you watch the old being replaced by the new, and plus a ton of other detail photos, literally of like things torn apart, and what you can see what all the pipes look like that are holding up the wedway, because it's literally just pipe and metal underneath all that decorative stuff. So
Disney saw your setup, and they said, man, we don't even have photos this detailed.
Yeah, so I think everyone will be fascinated when these get scanned and put on, because it's a good stack of, 200-300 pictures maybe.
Cool. There we go.
So
it's big.
Be ready.
We're looking forward to it. All right. Well, everyone, as always, thank you for listening. Give us a shout out on iTunes and wherever your review is, and or wherever you listen to our podcast from. Appreciate all your comments and corrections and everything you sent in. Questions you've got, send them to podcast@retrodwdw.com. And we'll be back next month as we take a little bit deeper dive into Alien Encounter. Get ready to be plunged into darkness. So with that, Brian, take us out.
Follow the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society on Twitter and Instagram @LBVHistory and on the web at lbvhistory.org. Follow Todd McCartney and Retro WDW on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook @RetroWDW. For all things Retro Disney World, including exclusive merchandise, visit us on the web at RetroWDW.com. On Twitter, follow our web designer Jason Bartel of Deepwater Studios @JasonDWS. Our announcer, Andre Gardner, @AndreGardner. And follow our hosts, Hal Bowers, on Twitter and Instagram @GoAwayGreen, and on the web at kingdomofmemories.com. For JT Cougar on Twitter @LS1JT, on YouTube at Rubber City Motoring, and on the web at rubbercitymotoring.com. And you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @Brian P. Miles. Retro Disney World is the monthly podcast of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society, a nonprofit, nonpartisan, tax-exempt 501c3 organization, and is not affiliated in any way with the Walt Disney Corporation or any of its subsidiary or affiliated entities.